The poll of the day is up right now on the 1067 The Fan Twitter account. Go vote if you're on the X app. G&D poll of the day presented by Metropolitan Moving and Storage, local, long distance, residential, or commercial. 3 decades of best-in-class service and experience. Danny, the poll of the day, exactly what we were just asking on the phones. Our perception is that there is less interest in this NFL draft this year among Commanders fans. We're gauging if that is true. Are you more, the same, or less interested in the upcoming first round 2 weeks away now than you typically are? We're going to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, I definitely am less captivated by it. I mean, listen, it's still a big deal for me. It's usually a 10 out of 10 where I look forward to it and start thinking about it when in a normal Washington season in October, November. I'm looking at mocks, looking at big boards, yada, yada, yada. I've not done that. I've not ramped up in the same way where I devour every bit of information ravenously. I'm comparing CBS's mock draft to ESPN's, to the second McShay, to the third Kuiper, to the Dane Brugler, to the Daniel Jeremiah's. I haven't had that same energy for it.
Don't you blame Ovi a little bit too? I do think the distraction of some of what's been going on in DC sports, whether it was one thing to the next, right? It's like the Commanders to the Super Bowl. And one of the reasons you and I haven't really sunk our teeth into it as much on the show is, we're on to spring training and then we're on to the Ovi watch. And it just feels like maybe there's a little if you build it, they come with this too. But I voted on the poll, and I did say a little less excited than normal. About 2/3 of people so far are saying same as always. Nobody is saying more excitement than normal, which could be a reasonable answer too. I mean, the team is better. They're closer. They just went to an NFC championship game. And so you could just be hit with the fever where everything Commanders gets that much more exciting. Let's go to James, who's in Woodbridge, listening on Grant and Danny on 1067 The Fan. What's up?
What's going on, Grant? Danny, how you boys doing today?
Good, buddy.
Hey, listen, I am actually one in the more excited category. I have been watching all of the mock draft boards, so yes, I'm intrigued by the front of the draft and what that all looks like. But really, I want to see, I looked at last year as that experimental year where it's supposed to be kind of like a 3-year build, and they got super advanced and did a great thing. But I still want to see what those next building blocks look like. And I'm really excited to see if they can get an electric running back there to join Jaden and any other weapons. I'm all about offensive weapons right now, so I'm excited.
Appreciate you, dude. It's one of the rare opportunities you're going to have to add to this roster. And free agency was fun because they made the huge splash trade for Laramie Tunsil. They brought in some talent, but it's not like they throw money around like it's Monopoly cash. So this is where you could really get creative and make a splash, whether that's via trades. I'm also really intrigued because we haven't mentioned this. What if on draft night they trade the 29th pick and it's not to move back? They go get Trey Hendrickson or they do something else crazy to get an edge because Adam Peters operates in the shadows. He could be talking to somebody about an edge right now.
It could be happening right now.
Considering.
And that's kind of the point.
And the 29th pick could be a part of that. They could add a Pro Bowl caliber, proven 12-plus sack edge on draft night, and it would be on brand for this season after what they did with Laramie Tunsil last month.
100% right. And I was more excited for free agency than I was at this point for the draft. And I think it's mostly because of the salary cap space they had. And it was this amazing opportunity to go do something to basically say, hey, we understand we can't just run it back the way that we did. And now they re-signed a bunch of their guys, and they should have. But we're going to upgrade. We're not just going to do status quo and just, throw the football out there and make sure Jaden Daniels saves our bacon for the second half of the season. We're going to improve this roster, and they went and did that. So because there's less ammo at this stage, I'm probably, again, not as steamed up about it as I normally would be, but still, you're 100% right. It's a window where they're going to improve the football team, and that is still has some exciting weight.
I was talking to the fellas during the break, and Toby brought up a good point. He said for him, he's about the same, but his point was, I get into the NFL draft with or without Commanders intrigue. I am the exact same way. Like, one of my favorite events of my entire childhood every year was the NFL draft. It's been ruined a little bit because it used to be, for the OGs that remember this, it used to be 2 days. And the first night we got rounds, I think it was 1 through 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then day 2, so it was Saturday night, 1 through 3. And really, it was all day long. It was Saturday at noon. And it would go, 5-6 hours for 3 rounds. And then as it was dark out at night, we'd shut it down and we'd come back on Sunday and they'd go rounds 4 through 7. But the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft, Danny, in my childhood, I would have put that over Super Bowl Sunday, probably. I'm trying to think if anything would have surpassed it. Maybe opening day in Major League Baseball, but I mean, not much. Like, it was right there. The NFL draft is just, I love it.
You just sit there on your couch,
Yeah.
eat 3 meals via delivery.
But they have just kept watering it down more and more and more for TV. So now it's 1 round spread out over multiple hours. It plays. Everything the league does is quality television. But I would kill to go back to the Saturday afternoon all day.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Hey, hun, cannot do anything tomorrow. I'll be on the couch like it's an NFL Sunday for 5 hours because it's rounds 1
Just the
through
best.
3.
The best.
But I don't need, like you were talking about the Commanders quarterback situation, I don't need them to be a main storyline to be giddy, which is why I feel a little surprised by my lack of intrigue this year. I just think for me, it's hyper specific to my life. It's been crazy. Like, there's been a lot going on between Ovi and us traveling a lot and running around. I think this is the time now where I'm flipping the switch. Last night, I started to watch a bunch of the edges and getting into the highlight reels and stuff. I'm just further behind than I normally am.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
Which I think is where I'm at too. I would say this: the difference between you and me, and I think Toby as well, is everything that happens, I always think about how does it affect me, right? I have a very selfish worldview when it comes to a lot of things, whether it's,
You're talking about as a fan or just
well, in life too. Like, how does this affect me? In all sincerity, like I view things that way. So for me, the intrigue of the draft was always about, okay, what does that mean for Washington? Like, for the sake of argument, I was getting into this earlier, but if in a certain year, if 4 receivers go before Washington picks at pick 14, that means that they can maybe get the second best lineman or the third best defensive end or whatever. The intrigue for me was always about how Washington could be the best. And like, that's what I cared about more than anything else, where one guy would go one place, or is Shedeur going 2 or 9? Like, I'm way less concerned about that because that's really not a Washington centric thing.
how salty will you guys be if Washington trades back at 29 at the end of the night, out of the first round, and doesn't pick? And I don't mean upset that they don't pick as much as you sat around for hours waiting and waiting and waiting. And then right when they're supposed to be on the clock, the logo disappears and Green Bay is back on the clock or whatever. Because I think that while a lot of fans would like to trade back, that's also an opt-in.
You waited around for a while.
An entire night to get nothing out of it.
Yeah.
Let's go to Anthony in Calvert.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Good, buddy.
So I am less excited but more intrigued, and I think part of the reason is there's really no showstopper in this draft. Also, we're not looking for a savior. We're not looking for our franchise quarterback or, our foundation left tackle or anything like that. We're just looking for bits and pieces. So I'm intrigued as to what Peters is going to do. And I'm also kind of excited about if he starts wheeling and dealing, one pick could turn into 3 or 4 pretty quickly when he starts trading. So I'm definitely less excited, but I'm also more intrigued, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, because there's way more possibilities. Last year at this time, we knew they were taking a quarterback, and we thought we knew which quarterback they were taking. We ended up being right. It became crystal clear a few days before the draft. But it was really, I would say over the last 10 to 12 days, pretty poorly kept secret that they were going to take Jaden Daniels, right? But for whatever reason, they didn't tell anybody all offseason, and they kind of left it open to interpretation. But can you think of a bigger juxtaposition year over year in the draft? I don't think there's been a team in this boat where you picked second after being the second to worst team in the NFL, not because you traded up, but you literally were the second to worst team in the NFL. You take a quarterback. So in a quarterback heavy draft where all the QBs are beloved at the top of the board, you're choosing between some. Following year, you got to the NFC Championship game and you're picking in the bottom 3. You're now picking 29 and you're likely getting like the 5th or 6th edge to come off the board. So that's screaming into a megaphone. This one's just not going to be as fun.
Yeah.
I can't blame you for not being quite as excited.
There's no way there's the same. I mean, intrigue isn't the right word because you're right. We kind of knew what was happening, but even still, it was like, okay, here we go. You're handing the keys over So everybody's hopes and dreams rest on the throwing shoulder of this quarterback that they're going to take, which we all were pretty sure was going to be Jaden Daniels. This is not the same level of responsibility for whoever's at pick 29 or really pick 39 after they trade.
Draft night is dinner, okay? It's fun to eat. But last year was a filet mignon for you, Danny.
Thank you.
A ribeye, the superior cut, for me at a wonderful steakhouse. This year, we're getting fast food. We like it.
That's very tasty.
Crispy fries, burgers cooked well, right? But we're getting fries out the window. It's just a different thing. Going quarterback at 2, 29, do they go edge? Do they go corner? Maybe you get a weapon. Maybe a receiver falls and it becomes a high-profile guy. That adds to the excitement. Kevin's in Virginia on the Fan. Hey, Kev.
Hi, thanks for taking the call. Yeah, I'm more interested this year because I think the difficulty factor for Adam Peters is higher. Like in diving, you have more difficult dives you have to perform. It's harder, in my opinion, to get from where they were to the playoffs. I mean, it's harder to get from the playoffs to the Super Bowl and win it than get to the playoffs, in my opinion. I think he has to hit on every pick in order to fill out this roster to get past the Eagles and get to the Super Bowl. And he doesn't have as many picks to do it in. Plus, he has to consider the future. He has to lay the groundwork for the future. So I think this is more pressure on him, and there's more expectation on him than there was last year. I could have picked Jaden Daniels last year. Nothing against him, but it was an obvious choice. This is not as obvious. You got a few holes you need to fill. You want a valuable pick and someone who gives you 10 years. So it's fascinating to see what he's going to do in the draft to meet those goals, I think.
Thanks, Kevin.
Good perspective.
Much appreciated. So we do this a lot with GMs where we'll go, Mike Rizzo doesn't get credit for Strasburg at 1 or Harper at 1. And that I'm leery of that kind of thinking anyway, but I understand the premise. I'm not putting Jaden Daniels in that bucket, which is not to say that after 50 touchdowns in the SEC and winning the Heisman Trophy, he was not a beloved prospect. But they get credit for that pick. They easily could have taken Drake May, who was also a tremendous prospect. They could have fallen in love and gotten smitten with Bo Nix, who had a great year, or Michael Penix, who's taken over as a starter. There were a lot of good quarterbacks there. And there were major concerns about the frame, the size, the health for a lot of teams about Jaden Daniels' size or whatever it was. Maybe you thought he ran around too much, or maybe you just wanted someone who was going to be more stationary. So they should deservedly get credit for picking him. I'll disagree with that part. The rest of it, though, I think is a great point. It's obviously way more complicated and difficult to hit a home run at 29. It's the equivalent of trying to hit a home run up 3-1 in the count, leading by like 9 runs in the game when they're just kind of
there's a position player pitching.
Yeah, getting it over with. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe the shortstop is pitching, lobbing the ball in there versus you're left on left. It's a 1-run game. You're down 0-2. He's got the full arsenal ready and waiting, and you have no idea what's coming, and you're behind in the count. You're not seeing it well that night, and it's cold, or you're playing in the shadows or something like that. This just got a lot harder, and they do have to get these right. They don't really have the luxury to swing and miss because they have no young talent on the roster from the previous regime.
That's right. Yeah, there's very little wiggle room. I mean, every organization, no matter where you are, if you are the Kansas City Chiefs, where you've committed a lot of resources to Pat Mahomes or a team that's paid their quarterback or otherwise, you got to get draft picks right. If you're a team that isn't very good, that's trying to get up to that level, you got to get your draft picks right. You need to shoot a good percentage regardless of the amount of ammo that you have. So in general, the philosophy that I've always been under is if you're trying to improve, the more bites at the apple, the more darts you can throw at the board, the better. You should always be in the business of acquiring picks if you're bad. Well, I don't have a great philosophy for what to do when you're good and you're trying to get better. Like, to me now, whatever lever you can pull, you pull it. You can use a draft pick as currency. You can use salary cap money as currency. Whatever you want to do to get your football team better for your window that's right now, go ahead and do that. But it limits the opportunities you've got in the draft.
By the way, write down that topic idea, Darius, because I want to do that. I think that would be a great topic in the future. What he brought up, what is harder, going from the bottom of the NFL like they did to a good playoff team, or going from where they are now, which is a good playoff team, to winning it all? Because I actually agree with him. I'll bet you were in the minority, though. But I think what they just did, the leap they made, is easier to make, especially one time. Not that I don't think this is sustainable, but I think going from stinking up the joint to being really good in the playoffs, we've made it look really, really hard here. People can't believe they won as many games as they did because they never did because of Dan Snyder running a terrible operation. But teams do that all the time.
Yeah, the league is designed on it, by the way.
Maybe you
It's
don't
a
get all the
feature.
way to the NFC title game. Maybe you lose one game earlier. Maybe Detroit beats you in Detroit or whatever.
Right.
But I think that jump is easier than the next one now they've got to make as they climb this mountain. When they're jumping across a 6-foot gap and have to land the dismount by, there's 2 inches of rock they're grabbing onto, and their foot has to be in that one position so they don't fall to try to win the Super Bowl now.